Good afternoon and welcome to City Journal News. I'm Ashleigh McMillan.
And I'm Emily Umstad.
Here are today's top stories.
New Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull has announced he wants more women on his front bench. Speaking to media this morning, Mr Turnbull declared he wants to promote female representatives in his cabinet, which will be sworn in on Monday. Speculation about the cabinet reshuffle continues, with Scott Morrison rumoured to take over the Treasury portfolio and current Treasurer Joe Hockey likely to be offered Turnbull's old post as Communications Minister. Immigration Minister Peter Dutton is believed to have offered his resignation in a text message to Turnbull on Monday night.
Australian fighter jets have carried out their first airstrikes inside Syria, Defence Minister Kevin Andrews announced this morning. Harriet Conron has more.
Defence Minister Kevin Andrews announced this morning 2 Australian FA-18 Super Hornets were involved in bombing an Islamic State target in eastern Syria on Monday.
This is part of our logical extension in the fight against Daesh to operate not just over northern Iraq but also to operate over eastern Syria in order to degrade and destroy the Daesh forces.
The expansion of the air campaign into Syria was announced last week, attracting backlash from Greens MPs who claim the strikes are supporting the controversial Assad regime. But today, Russian President Vladimir Putin pledged ongoing military support for the Assad government, in stark contrast to the US-led campaign against IS.
R has managed to avoid a forced relocation of its mast after the state government intervened. Finbar O'Malley reports.
Developers in Brunswick had originally proposed a high-rise apartment next to radio station R, which would have blocked their broadcast signal. However, this was knocked back by the Moreland City Council, who limited the site to 4 stories.
R feared the original 6-storey development proposal would have forced them to move their mast, a move which the community broadcaster feared would have cost them almost $500,000.
The developers took Moreland City Council to the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. It was at this point Planning Minister Richard Wynne intervened.
It's clear that this application was one that should go before the council. The council were very strong in their opposition to it for the obvious reasons that we want 3RRR to not only stay on air but to continue to thrive.
The Victorian Greens' Greg Barber said the fracas shows action needs to be taken to improve Victorian city planning laws.
Well, development's a big issue around the inner city, but Melbourne, unlike other world cities, don't really have strong development controls. So there's a constant battle going on between developers and residents.
Minister Wynne disagrees.
This is planning working, and I think this is a perfect example of where a conflict has been able to be resolved.
While RRR didn't want to comment, whatever angle politicians want to play, the future of the broadcaster is safe. Finbar O'Malley, City Journal News.
The Aboriginal flag will fly permanently over Victoria's Parliament House, alongside the Australian and Victorian flags. Mahalia Dobson reports.
2 days after Turnbull's instalment as Prime Minister, Melburnians turn their attention to a different pole. The state government have advocated for the Aboriginal flag to be permanently flown at Victoria's Parliament in a move to recognise Indigenous Australians. CEO of Dja Wurrung Clans Aboriginal Corporation Rodney Carter says that by raising the Aboriginal flag, he receives recognition for the struggle his people have had to go through.
I think it's just part of setting the record straight with history, and I get goosebumps when I see a flag raised, or I get that recognition really for the struggle my people had to go through previously.
Previously, the flag had only been flown during reconciliation weeks. However, it will now be a year-round fixture designed to show respect for the traditional custodians of Victoria. The announcement received bipartisan support. This change comes after months of consultation by Minister for Aboriginal Affairs Natalie Hutchins, who wrote to the presiding officers about this issue in July. She says flying the Aboriginal flag is more than just symbolism. It acknowledges Aboriginal people's deep and continuous connection to the land. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews agrees, saying the flying of the flag is a clear statement of Aboriginal culture and identity. Mahalia Dobson, City Journal News.
When it comes to the weird and wonderful, the Melbourne Fringe Festival never fails to deliver. Launching today, the festival features cabaret, comedy and everything in between. Alicia Barker has more.
Now in its 33rd year, the Melbourne Fringe Festival is one of Australia's largest multi-art form festivals, featuring over 400 events across Melbourne and regional Victoria. Since its launch in 1982, the Fringe has played host to some of Australia's rising stars. Tonight, a group of the city's young artists present their work in Key to Kill, a live multimedia exhibition incorporating sound, sets, video and crazy set.
Key to Kill is a multi-sensory, multi-performance live art exhibition. All the stuff behind me we've just kind of made out of found objects. There's hundreds of reels of tape, meters and kilometres of cling wrap, and it's just this crazy mess, really.
Showcasing the work of 9 Melbourne artists, the show embodies the spirit of the Fringe, giving emerging artists a platform to show off their work.
There is quite a sad thread that goes through this. It's very much about yearning for something that isn't, or yearning for something that was, or yearning for something that you would like to be. So that seems to be the main thread.
Playing at All Press Studio in Collingwood until September 19th, Key to Kill is intimate, funny and very Melbourne. Alicia Barker, City Journal News.
Asylum seekers in Europe have been condemned as criminals and face prison under new laws to stop the flow of migrants through Hungary. Earlier this week, the eastern country passed a snap policy to close 175-kilometre border with Serbia, with the last high-traffic crossing point blocked with razor wire on Tuesday. Over 170 asylum seekers have been arrested in the past 24 hours for crossing the border, which is meant to stay open under EU law. The move has not deterred hundreds more asylum seekers heading towards Hungary who say they will wait until the crossing point reopens. Poland and the Netherlands have also indicated plans to step up patrols on their borders.
Ageing Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe has read out the wrong speech in the opening of Parliament today. The gaffe saw the 91-year-old leader read word for word a speech from last month's State of the Nation address, which he was heckled by the opposition at the time. Presidential spokesman George Charamba said the gaffe was due to a mix-up in the secretarial office and corrective measures were being considered. The opening session of Zimbabwe's parliament was also marred by claims members of the opposition party had received threatening text messages warning them against booing Mugabe.
North Korea has again warned that it has nuclear weapons and is prepared to use them. In a statement aired on North Korea's central state media on Tuesday, officials warned they are improving nuclear weaponry in quality and in quantity. North Korea defended their development of extreme weaponry as a self-defense measure in the face of the US extreme hostile policy and nuclear threats towards it. Officials from Pyongyang claim they have made a device small enough to fit a nuclear warhead onto a missile, which it could launch at enemies. However, weapons experts in the US question the developments and say they are another attempt at publicity for the Hermit Kingdom's leader Kim Jong-un.
Fremantle superstar Nat Fyfe has won his second consecutive AFL Most Valuable Player award. The 23-year-old utility joined AFL legends Wayne Carey, Greg William and Chris Judd in taking out the Lee Matthews Trophy twice. With over 1,400 votes, Fyfe was clearly in front of runner-up North Melbourne ruckman Todd Goldstein with 578 votes. Adelaide's Patrick Dangerfield and West Coast duo Matt Prudis and Josh Kennedy rounded out the top 5. Fyfe and Goldstein are the two favourites to take out the prestigious Brownlow medal on September 28, though 2 reports for rough conduct this year could foil Fyfe's bid.
The Professional Football Association has returned to negotiations with their governing body today in an attempt to solve the bitter gendered pay dispute. Football Federation Australia boss David Gallop told Sky Sports Radio he is cautiously optimistic the issue could be resolved before the start of the A-League season on October 8. The PFA have been demanding paid maternity leave and an increase of $12,000 to the base salary of female footballers, currently at to $21,000 per annum. However, Gallup signalled the FFA would not be softening their position on players' pay, having offered a modest increase of $2,000 as the pay deadlock has already seen the Matildas pull out of a tour of America.
Former NRL star Jarryd Hayne began his NFL career with the San Francisco 49ers overnight with a nervous performance. After some impressive pre-season performances, Hayne fumbled the ball in the first play with the eyes of Australia and America fixed on him. This morning he told 2Day FM's Hamish and Andy he couldn't have imagined a worse start to his NFL career.
No, what worse could have happened? It's one of those things. We just worry about the next play.
Hayne recovered to complete a solid yet unspectacular debut, the 49ers beating the Minnesota Vikings 20-3.
And now to the weather. After clouds and a top of 16 today, we're heading for much the same tomorrow, with a few showers and a top of 16. Friday will also hit a top of 16 before the weather improves over the weekend. The spring weather will be back on force in Saturday with a top of 18 before a top of 19 and light winds on Sunday.
And that's all the news for this Wednesday, the 16th of September.
Thanks for joining us on City Journal News. See you next time.